thank you all for coming in. The Columbian is pleased to welcome candidates for mayor of Vancouver. And we will, let's see, before we get started, I'm Greg Jane. I'm the editorial page editor, and I believe you met the rest of the editorial board. Just so you know, we are videotaping this. We will post it unedited on our website for the benefit of our readers. So with that in mind, make sure you speak up and speak clearly for the audio tape. And I should mention there is one other candidate, John Carroll, who did not respond to our request to join us today. So that's why he is not here. We'll start with, we'll just go around, please take 1 to 2 minutes, introduce yourselves, give a brief background and a quick synopsis of why you are running for mayor, and then after that we'll get into some specific policy issues. So let's keep the introduction short and we'll start down at this end of the table.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Ann McInerney Ogle. I am a city councilor, but I'm also the mayor pro tem for the city of Vancouver. But I have a background and experience that puts me in a unique position to hear the diverse interests of the city, because I am from the grassroots portion of the city. I came up through the neighborhood associations, served on the planning commission, chaired the planning commission, came in and chaired a variety of different community groups. I worked on the I-5 task force appointed by Governor Locke several years ago. I was elected to city council, served since January of 2014, and now serve as the mayor pro tem. Terry and I have lived here for 37 years. Our son John grew up through the Vancouver public schools, and we've absolutely enjoyed our opportunity to be here and to serve our community. As the Mayor Pro Tem, I have been working on chairing the Strategic Plan Oversight Committee. I chaired the Police Initiative for funding. I also serve on the number of different agencies. I serve on RTC. I chaired the CTRAN. I still serve on the CTRAN board. And those are all pieces that help me move forward with my love of this community to make it safe, prosperous, vibrant, and welcoming. So whether we're working on police and fire and timing, response times for our fire and our EMT, whether we're working on a homeless project or working on the economic development, those are all pieces that I've been working on for several years.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Greg Henderson. I'm a 24-year resident of Vancouver. I moved here from Colorado with my family and raised our 4 children here, and I've got 4 grandkids now. And I think this is a really good community to raise a family in, and I'd like to make it a better community. A couple months ago, I was sitting complaining to my grandkids and my wife about some issues in the city, and I thought being an armchair quarterback wasn't a good role model for grandkids. And I decided to put my name into the hat and get my ideas out there. I think I've run a small business with my wife, a house cleaning business, for over 20 years. I've been in a variety of jobs. I've been poor. I've been homeless for a month. I've dealt with issues of a child on opioids. I've dealt with a lot of the issues that our city is facing right now, and I think we've got a couple issues that we really need to address. We've got a housing crisis, we've got an opioid crisis, and we have an infrastructure, not a crisis, but it's a real problem. And I think if we can address also with a climate action plan that addresses the need to move our city forward into more 21st century jobs instead of retreating back at this time. I just think it's time for a little new angle. I've got some ideas and I'd like to talk about those, and I appreciate your time and inviting us down here to talk about those.
Great, thank you.
Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Cox, United States Army, retired. 36 years service. I came up through the enlisted ranks. Prior to the service, I spent 2 years as a welder in the industry. I served in Europe, I served around the world. I've served on general staffs. I've worked with the Office of Strategic Initiative and State Department in implementing international treaty compliance. I've done statistical analysis for the Army for many years. I've also been a comptroller and controlled budgets and large formations of soldiers around the world. I got into politics because of deceptive practices. And I'm here to talk about the corruption and deception that the city council is part of, and I brought evidence to that effect. You see, our city has been selling us a bill of goods for some time, and it dates into the collusion with Portland. The use of the numbers, and I will show you proof of what they're doing and how it is a statistical fallacy. And I will explain that to you. It's all right here.
And we'll get into that.
I'm going to give you these documents as well.
Great, thank you. Adam?
Hey, my name's Adam Hamida. I have lived here most of my life. I grew up here. My father was a Clark College professor for 30 years, so have long ties to the city of Vancouver. I love this community. I went to the University of Washington, got my business degree. I got an MBA from Portland State. So I've lived here my whole life. I run my business here, Mainstream Marijuana. We have 2 locations in the city of Vancouver. We employ 75 people in the city of Vancouver. We offer full health benefits, full dental, full vision, and I'm running for mayor over something as simple as a tree in front of my business. They cut the tree down in front of my business, and it took 4 months to put a new tree in there, a little tree. It took 4 months. They had cones in front of my business for 4 months. And it was just that precipitating event that kind of triggered me to say, you know, why does it take 4 months for the city to put a $200 tree in front of my business? I understand there's bids and there's things like that, but it's a big time for the city of Vancouver right now. The waterfront project's going in. There's a major housing crisis. People can't afford their rent, and I want to put a different spin on it. Rather than people that have been in politics or government their whole lives. I know how to run a business. My business is the #1 business in the industry out of 1,000 in the state of Washington. So we've done a great job at that, and I think I can apply that mindset to the city here and do a good job for the city.
Great, thank you. Thank you all again for being here. Let's start with one of the biggest issues facing the city is affordable housing and homelessness. And voters last year passed a tax to raise money to address affordable housing. How should that money be spent? And we'll start this end with that.
So there's, I think we're a little naive if we think we're going to get rid of homelessness in its totality. There's some people that struggle to make ends meet. They want to work. There's also some people that don't. There's some people that are addicted to drugs, alcohol. There's people with mental illness, and those people need help. The people with mental illness, they need help. Drug addiction, they need to get that support that they need from the county and the city. But the people that don't want help, they don't necessarily want it. They don't necessarily need to get it. So I think we need to focus on the people that want that help. I think it's families that maybe they can't make ends meet when they're working. But voucher programs, affordable housing. I think we really need to incentivize builders to build more units. I take that approach. It's a simple thing of supply and demand, right? If there's not enough units, you take a look at the families like the Angelos, right? They have thousands of units all over, and they control a large portion of that market. And I think we need to diversify that. So I think we need to encourage builders to build more affordable housing. I think we need to just get people in housing that they can afford.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, that's the exact subject I want to talk about, because this is where the statistical fallacy comes into place. I'm going to first read to you what definition of unfair and deceptive practice is. Does not need to show that the act or practice was intended to deceive. This particular instruction is for an unfair or deceptive requirement is not met by a statutory violation.
And how
It
does
is a
that
civil.
apply here?
It is a civil matter. But it does not need to be intended or unintended to be deceptive. Our city council could very well have just been incompetent and not found this out. And I'm going to show you what deceptive practices are. I'm going to just give this to you. And Washington defers to federal law because they have no particular statute. And that's on deception.
It's about affordable housing.
This is my lead-in, please bear with me.
Okay.
I want to talk about the economic summary of the Portland, Washington area. ISO standard for a truth test. You must meet two conditions, either positive or negative in order for it to be true. That is statistics. And Olga should know this, she has a math degree. You have a tax area, an urban housing area of the Portland metro area. Those conditions produced these numbers in the Portland housing area.
And I
Now,
can
it's
appreciate
amazing.
that, but let's remain focused on
Well,
what
I'm-
Vancouver voters passed.
Well, I'm going to conclude by saying we're spending too much on the homeless, and I'm going to show you why.
But it is only a 60-minute meeting with 4 candidates, so
Well, I don't intend to take all of it, sir, but I intend to
how
take
much of it?
the portion to prove my point. Here is from the Portland, Vancouver housing and the Vancouver housing. They're both identical. And here's where the statistical fallacy occurs. The condition of economic tax base. They're applying a standard that does not hold true. It's like using an uncommon denominator or dividing by 0. It's impossible. Because we only have the ability as a city to tax Vancouver. So Proposition
now, wait,
1
that may
was
be,
in fact deceptively presented to the people. This has raised the cost of both the taxes required and all the other taxes that were
Okay,
associated
but I'm
because they're
curious
using the
about
wrong
voters
numbers.
approved this, whether they should have or not, they did.
Yeah.
What do we do with that?
Well, what we do with it is go back and recompute the numbers based upon the actual average median income for Vancouver, which to my best estimate at this time, because you just can't find the numbers, is $59,111, as opposed to, or 111, as opposed to the 73,300. There's a 20% disparity, and that is reflected across the taxes that are now being levied in this city.
So are you saying that money should be refunded to the people?
Absolutely, there should be a refund back to the people. Not only that, Proposition 1 may not have even passed had the actual numbers been used. It was a fraud perpetuated on the people.
Did you pursue redress in some way at all, or have you made that point to the city council, or what have you done to surface that concern and try to have it resolved?
Well, I just did. I just read the law.
Okay.
I did
Have
my
you done it
research
prior
this
to
weekend.
this?
Something was bothering me. Where they came up with the 73,300, and it didn't make sense.
But had you addressed that prior to this meeting?
Hmm?
Had you brought that up, as Scott asked, to the city council?
No.
Or?
You're hearing it
address
for the
that?
first time. I'm giving you the scoop.
Okay, we're thankful for that. Let's move on. Greg, thought on?
On Proposition 1, well, I said there's a housing crisis, and I think we need to address it. One, the issue of the homeless in tents, I think is it's a question of we're not being fair to the business owners in the downtown area. I think we're not being fair to the homeless, who many of them aren't there on a choice of their own or by decisions of their own. They've got there because of raising rents, and that's one issue that I think institutional investors are driving the prices of rental housing and housing in general up. I just saw a story on CNN of a housing investment group that sold for $1 billion over what they thought it would sell for, because the investment in real estate is such an attractive investment option now, because rents and prices are going up. It's such a market for that. We have to address that. I know rent stabilization isn't something that is legal at this point in the state of Washington, it's something we need to talk with Olympia about as a possibility of looking at something to stabilize the market until we can figure out affordable housing is going to be a problem in one aspect because land is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and how much we have to available for development, and at some point there won't be land available. We're going to need to think about building up. I like the idea of the low-income apartment projects that are coming online that have been proposed. I think that's a good use of the funds. I think we could look at shipping container villages we could locate public and private land, maybe give tax abatements to business owners who have vacant land in areas that we could put homeless in these, because there's two issues. There's homeless housing, there's affordable housing. Those are two different things, and I think, but they're both issues that need to be addressed. And inclusionary zones, we need to look at density requirements, look at some of that.
Would you be in favor of rent stabilization? Would that be rent control?
Well, I guess that's a way of saying yes.
As you said, that would have to go through the legislature, but you would support that if
in certain forms, yes. I mean, not just a flat-out rent control lid or something, but I think it's something that needs to be talked about and looked at. There are economic arguments for it and against it, and I think that needs to be talked about. And right now, it's off the table. We can't even talk about it, and yet rents are, we're talking $1,800 for, something that's just a simple. I was looking at housing in the Midwest where my family comes from, and my son just literally had to sit down, and he said, $500 a month for a 3-bedroom house, and he couldn't believe it. He said, "Is this real?"
Not
I said,
here, you're not talking.
No. This is in Indiana, where my parents live, and he was just blown away that the prices are that different. And I think a lot of that is driven by investors that see this as an attractive market, and that's something that needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Ann.
I think your question was talking about the affordable housing fund that was passed. We were very clear with the voters on what that would be, how it would be implemented, and all of those percentages were well laid out. And I'm not ready to start tweaking those percentages. So 67% of that went for the preservation and building. And then we had about 25% going to vouchers and such. And then we had that 5% down there at the bottom, which talked about shelters. When we put it out we had a housing summit, and we invited in banks and developers and anyone who was interested in applying for the money. And we received those applications, over $5 million. We don't have quite $5 million in this first round. We have just under $4 million. But if those applications go through with some tweaking, we could be looking at the 237, 240 new units or preserved units to keep people in, and that's exactly what that housing was meant to do. We're talking seniors, women with families, disabled individuals, and that is the core of that entire package. If I were to make a change, it would be that bottom piece that talked about shelters, because even over the 7-year span, we're only looking at $2.5 million for a shelter. We have very deeply needed a women's shelter. We're looking at the new day center and moving that day center out of Friends of the Carpenter. That could go under that piece of the pie, and then a new shelter could go in that piece, but not to purchase land and to build and to put it out there would probably be a little over that budget. So I would change that 1% down at the bottom.
General question for everybody, and we'll start with Ann. If you had to pick a local politician, not necessarily just within the city of Vancouver, but let's say Clark County, you had to pick a local politician that you might closely associate your view and vision with. someone that you respect, who would you pick?
Well, I truly enjoy being with Mayor Ron Onslow from Ridgefield. His sense of humor, his passion for his community. Yes, sometimes that chainsaw gets in the way of blackberry bushes and everything else for him. But I love what he has done with his city council, pulling them together. They work together well. They have a focus for Ridgefield. And he is out in his community, and he has his neighborhoods and his community focused in moving forward. They have received numerous awards with the Association of Washington Cities. The state of Washington has awarded them numerous projects for funding. They are a growing community, and I think the mayor has a lot to do with that, with his relationship with his council.
You don't want to move there.
No.
It sounded almost like
I'm a city girl. I'm a city girl.
Great.
I got the chance to meet Royce Pollard a couple times, and I had an admiration for the way he led the city by just example, and by he just had a pride in the city, and I don't know how to explain it. The couple times I met him at Pride Night at Ellsworth, and when my son received a Vancouver Sparkles Award when he was 10, just filled me with, I felt like we really belonged in this community, and it made me feel like I wanted to participate in it and get involved.
Steve,
None of the above. I walk my own path.
you don't have anybody that you have any respect for, or?
I didn't say I didn't respect them.
Okay, well, can you
I
give
said
me
I don't.
somebody?
I don't try to emulate.
Well, who do you respect?
I respect everyone. I love everyone.
Who do you respect most?
My father.
Politician?
No.
Is there a reason why you don't want to give a name?
I don't like politics to begin with. I'm not a politician.
You don't have any relationships with any politicians in the community?
None whatsoever.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with the one of the maybe the easier, obvious answers, but I've had a lot of good working relationship with Mayor Levitt. The thing that I respected most about him is his availability. He seems to make time. You know, I've ran into him in the grocery store. I've sat down with him as a business owner, and I know he carries a part-time job as an engineer also. So I think his availability has been what's impressed me. I know that he works well with everybody on the city council, and you know, he's done a good job with the city. I think his the things that he's done have moved the city forward. So yeah, Tim Levitt has been just his availability has impressed me for somebody who's so busy.
Real quick, Greg, is your son running for a position?
That's him. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Wait a minute, the Vancouver Sparkles Award.
Well,
not too many, I guess.
Well, I had told him a couple of years ago, you know, in a joking way, that I would run for mayor one day.
Okay.
Well, and then he was part of that inspiration when I'm complaining, and
Got
he
it.
said, "Well, you can't just sit there and complain."
He's in
And he
Michigan.
walks into his room. Hey, you can't just sit there and complain.
And Steve, one more attempt to get an answer out of you on this one.
Cicero, 1st century BC.
Okay. Somebody that's still alive. Do you know Liz Pike?
I do.
And what do you think of Liz?
Admirable qualities, fine American,
Okay.
good patriot.
There you go. Good.
As I said, I respect everybody.
Everybody?
Everybody.
Hillary Clinton?
Yes, I respect her.
Okay.
Why wouldn't I?
Well, if you respect everybody, you're right. I can't throw out a name that you wouldn't respect.
Well, I respect everybody. I don't have to agree with their politics to respect them.
Yeah, you agree with Liz Pike's politics?
I do.
Okay. All right. How about Jim Muller's? Jim Muller's politics?
Don't know him.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So given your quest for the mayoral seat here, Can you, from 30,000 foot level, with regard to your vision for the city, can you kind of analyze what the city's done in the last 10 years that you especially support, and then maybe something that you would question as far as a direction that you may not have pushed the council toward? I'm looking for if you were the mayor 10 years ago, what would you have been working on for and against over the last 10 years? You want to start?
Sure. So the can you repeat the question real quick?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I just want to get both of them.
From a
both
broad vision
okay.
standpoint, just pretend you were elected mayor 10 years ago. What would you have been working on over the last 10 years to improve the city, and what would you maybe have undone that you felt like wasn't a good idea?
Okay, sure. So for me, I come from a mindset of jobs. Jobs create prosperity. Businesses provide those jobs. So I would have been more aggressive in recruiting businesses to come to the city of Vancouver. I would have offered incentives to those businesses. I would have offered support. I'm friends with Matt Olson at Robertson Olson Construction, and I know that he said that recently, in the last several years, the city's become much more friendly towards businesses, permits, and things like that. So I would have been pushing that a lot sooner. I would have, if one thing that they probably shouldn't have done is they probably should have had a little bit more vision when the housing market crashed. To realize once that started bouncing back, I think they probably should have got out in front of that a little quicker to prevent this crisis that we're in. So I think if they would have had just a little bit more foresight, I think that this situation that we're in right now with the lack of units, I think Vancouver has a 2% rate of free apartments right now. So that turnover is there's no turnover. The prices are going up. I think if they would have had a little more foresight, I think that they could have avoided that. I think they could have been friendlier a little sooner to builders, and they could have looked for funding, rather than just recently. They could have done it a little sooner. So I think just a little more foresight from the city. Running it kind of like as a business owner, I have to see what's in front of me, and I can't just see past the tip of my nose, right? Or I have to see past the tip of my nose. It's not just what's presented to me right now. You have to have some anticipation, and I think that the city's lacked that a little bit.
Great.
What was part of the question too, the vision from here on out?
They could include that, sure.
I thought that was,
So I guess,
yeah,
what are you looking forward to
Yeah.
now? That was then, now 10 years out.
10 years out, okay. Yeah, no, I think that we need to create I think the waterfront project is huge. I think that's going to attract people towards us. I think we need to improve the roads. I mean, there were potholes. I'd like to try to institute a 72-hour pothole fix policy like the city of Seattle has. They've had some success with that up there. They don't always get to it within 72 hours. When I was at the University of Washington, I know that I remember hearing about that policy, and I thought that was pretty cool considering, as of a few months ago, I'm driving around and I'm avoiding potholes from the winter storm. So, I understand there can be log jams with something as simple as potholes, right? When there's a huge storm and there's a lot of them. But I was looking at the budget last night. It was an 1,800-page document on the City of Vancouver's website, and it's a 2-year, $1 billion, $1.004 billion budget. So there are some things in that budget that can be tweaked. There's some things that can be, there's things that need to get reassigned in there. I think everybody wants better transportation. I think that we can greatly improve that. Looking at like parking issues, for example, in the city, right? It's great and it's fine to say, okay, everybody's going to take the Vine, everybody's going to take mass transit, but they're not. Let's be real. People ask, why do Americans like big cars? Americans don't necessarily like big cars. They like big cars because gasoline is cheap, right? A lot of people, for the most part, can afford cars, and parking's an issue. There's no parking structures going up. There's not enough parking. We can push mass transit on people, but if people have a choice, if they have the financial means to afford a vehicle, they're going to choose to drive 100% of the time. They want to pull up right in front of their business. They don't want to park off site and wait 10 minutes for a bus to shuttle them to their business. That's not going to work. Nobody's going to buy into that. So I would like to see the city work with local landowners to put up parking structures. I think that my business has in Uptown Village. There's a parking shortage. They just built a 140 unit apartment building, but because it's in a rapid transit overlay area, they're only required to put in 0.7 parking spaces per unit. How many people live in a unit? 2, maybe 3. How many cars do they have? 2, maybe 3, right? So, I mean, the city's creating, through the planning department, they're creating these problems by buying into this fantasy land that people are going to take the bus when they have an option to use their vehicles. So that's one thing that I would really push is additional parking spaces. I wouldn't try to shove rapid transit down people's throats like the city's been doing for years and years. I want to make it available to people who need it, because not everybody can afford a car. But let's get out of this fantasy idea that people want to take the bus if they have an option.
But just real quick, Portland is actually beginning an experiment that says, here's the way that you force people to take transit. You don't build the parking available. And when you don't build the parking available, that then trickles down to, am I going to buy a car if I can't find a place to park it? And that forces people into mass transit. So I'm just saying that there are 1 or 2 ways that a city can go. You could either go by trying to build more structures, which then people will buy more cars and drive more. Or you don't build the parking spaces, and there's no place to park your car, and then you take mass transit.
Well, I think that goes into the government telling people what they want.
Yes.
I don't think that necessarily the government should force their view on people. If people want cars, let's listen to what the citizens want. If people want to park right in front of where they work, or next to where they work, or where they're shopping, let's give them that option. Let's not force anything on anybody.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Stephen?
Hindsight's 20/20. I could go down the list of things the city has done wrong. There's some things they've done right. Transportation isn't one of them. I agree with Adam on just about everything he says. We've taken transportation to a whole new level of idiocracy. The policy is currently force people out of their cars, and there's nothing more symbolic of America's liberty and freedom than the automobile. We want our parking. We want to be able to drive on roads. We want to go where we want to go, when we want to go, and how we get there. The idea that we can force people to do something different is ludicrous. It's a waste of money. High density has been voted down 3-1 in Portland. They don't want to do any more of it. Why? They're tired of the costs. They're tired of the lack of livability. And if you look at the livability index, that's very important to people to bring to your community. The city council for the past 10 years has done everything to change, recharacterize, and change our communities. People bought into these communities because they had a little space, a little green space, enough parking, and they could drive down the roads. But we've done this backfill policy for too long. We've created congestion. It's a self-inflicted injury. It is. And if you want to bring light rail to this town, guess what? You tear up more roads and create more congestion. It doesn't help. And if you go to clarkcounty.info, you can see all the reasons and statistics as to why light rail doesn't work. I don't want to go into those because I don't have a lot of time. But I do want to talk about what I would do, and that's changing the build-up to a build-out policy. We need buildable land. We need to make it cheap so people can afford it. And affordable land means if you're working, an affordable home means if you're making $15 an hour, you can buy something to live in or afford the rent. That's affordable because we're not subsidizing you anymore. Let me go back to my original argument about the deception that the city has created. By raising that price of the median income, they also use Portland's numbers for rent that raised the rent. Landlords, with the no-notice policy, started kicking people out. because they want to bring people in that could afford the rent increases. This all happened between 2015 and 2016 when Vancouver changed the method for computing homelessness in this area. Again, it was a statistical fallacy. You can't do that because you don't have the tax base. The feds have the tax base. They can tax across state lines. We can't. So we've created a problem that we're now going to spend more money on to try to fix rather than go back and compute it accurately. Homelessness in this area is not as bad as it's being made out to be. It's become a battle cry during an election year. So people can tout all the things they're doing about homelessness. But it's not as bad as it really is. Do you know Vancouver Housing's largest success is people that drop out of the program? Second largest success is people that die in the program. 1/3 of the people actually graduate from the program. It has a $2.2 million administrative cost, about 11% is administrative cost.
So what would
Now
you
that
do
should be
about-
much lower.
What would you do about Vancouver housing then? Well,
The current housing would be taken care of if we expand out when building affordable housing. You see, we're going to come to a point in Vancouver where we have to put up the no vacancy sign because people are frustrated. And I'm here to exhibit that frustration because I represent that majority of the population that is tired of the congestion, tired of the taxes, and tired of being lied to.
No, yeah, I can respect that and appreciate that. To be honest, I think it would carry more weight if you had brought this forth, if you had gone to the city council, if you had tried to redress these concerns and what you refer to as corruption and deception.
Yeah, every forum I've been
Yeah.
trying to bring this out. But the way
So
the
you have
forum,
tried.
yeah, I've tried to bring this out before, but I find I'm just manipulated by the questioners in the forum.
I mean, what?
And now,
city
now
council
now
or-
you're asking me questions, and I'm not giving you the answer you want. And you know what? I don't care.
No, I just want to know why.
You're
Why we got
you're
the
asking
scoop on
questions.
this.
I'm not answering the way you want. That's what's happening here.
I just want you to answer. I don't care how.
I am answering it.
So why didn't you bring this up previously?
As
Why-
I said, I
why
did.
we
In the
get
other
this?
forums, I started bringing it up. But I've been
Okay.
unable to articulate it to this detail because I haven't been allowed to. Immediately when I started to present the package to you, what did you do? You interrupted me. You wanted to stop me. You wanted to go back and answer the question.
Well, that was just
Well-
because in the interest of time. It wasn't just, that was the only.
And I'm gonna
What
do that again.
price
I apologize.
and how much
We're-
time will you place on the truth?
Okay, we're going to move on.
And here's my challenge to you. When this meeting's over, you go back and look at a tape, and you see who got most of the time, who do you think's gonna be the winner?
Yeah, I probably did.
Okay.
I finally had the opportunity to put out my message.
Right, but to complain about the idea that you're not getting a forum here is kind
No,
of
no, I'm not saying I didn't get the form. I'm saying I was interrupted.
Well, we'll see who ends up with the most time.
Go to Greg.
Okay, what the city has done right the last 10 years. I like the waterfront project. I like the idea of when we moved here, we walked through that wasteland that was that area, and what is happening now and the vision for it, I really like. I don't like that we're not addressing issues of infrastructure. That without revamping and rebuilding our infrastructure, we're going to have a lot of difficulty bringing in businesses and attracting businesses that, in a world that's moving faster and faster, on time, it's going to have to get there now with our roads and our system of lights. Right now, $800 a year the average American wastes sitting in traffic. Ill-timed lights, $50 billion a year is wasted in the trucking industry, getting things to their destinations. I think we need to really look at our infrastructure, rebuild it. We need to build ahead of the curve instead of putting in the businesses and then going, oh, where's the parking? Where's the lanes to get people in there? I agree and disagree with Adam and Steve on the public transportation. I think if we could rethink public transportation, a lot more people would use it. Right now, we've got the big buses that go to a general location. In Europe, they have a system of smaller buses, smaller routes that go to more specific locations that actually take you where you're wanting to go, when you want to go. They're more often, they're more location centric. I think that's something we could look at.
Have any American cities adopted that?
That's a good question. I don't know in America. I just know based on friends telling me the system in Germany that they've
I can jump in on
encountered
that too. My wife's from Istanbul, and they have little mini buses. They call them dolmuş, and they're quick and they're convenient. But they finger into all the neighborhoods.
Right,
So
and
I think that's a good
exactly
idea.
like
I think
that,
that's
yes.
I think that's a good idea for the public transportation. Go
And
ahead.
I think that's something that the big bus going to a general location, I think that's not the best way to look at it. And that's one reason why people don't take it. I've got to walk half a mile to a bus stop that takes me to another bus stop that takes me to another bus stop that I then can walk here, you know.
Is that how you got here today?
Not today, but I have before, yes. I've done exactly that, and that takes an extra hour, you know, on top of the bus ride. So I think it's something we could look at in the future. I think I like the direction the city's going, but I'd like to have a climate action plan that addresses the oil terminal. I'm not for that. I'll go on record for that because I think I don't want Vancouver to be an oil town. I think we can attract the right kind of businesses if we keep the wrong kind of businesses out. And I think in that way, government does have a role in shaping our society and our culture. And it's both. People get to decide what they want, but the government also has a role in shaping where our culture needs to head, because people want their cars. I get that. And people want their big homes. And at a certain point, something has to give. Or you go, well, no affordable housing, or we can all have our sprawling mansions. Or we can have public transportation rethought, or we can have all our cars, but, you know, no one can get where they want because it's so congested. So I like the general direction our city's been going, like I said, and I think we've got a lot more potential, though.
I think your question was what was going on 10 years ago that I liked and didn't like, and where would we go further forward. So 10 years ago, when we were going into this recession and we started seeing empty homes, when we knew property taxes weren't going to be paid, we hunkered down at the city level, and the city council at that time started cutting jobs, and we lost employees, and we went very lean. So lean that look at what's in the newspaper today. How many cities don't have, and states don't have a budget, but how many cities are faulting right now? We never faulted. We stayed. We kept moving forward. Not in the speed that we wanted, not with the employees. We didn't trim the trees. We didn't get the median strips taken care of. Our parks, we turned the water off at the parks. We hunkered down and rode it out because we didn't have the revenues coming in, and we knew it. But we stayed afloat, and we continued to work, and we went more out, and the community started helping in. So of all of the things that I can think of is that we survived and we came out the other end. What I didn't like is we lost the I-5 bridge. And while that is a state and federal issue, we are the 4th largest city in the state, and our advocacy and our work could have been stronger. Stronger at the neighborhoods, at the business level, at the government agency level. to get that up and moving. And that was kind of that sad piece that we lost. Moving forward, the jobs. The county's comp plan has a population for us, a target for population and a target for jobs. We can meet it for population. We're pulling in 3,100 a year. Jobs, not so much. They have us down for 2,000 jobs a year. We're not meeting that goal. So working with our EDC and our chambers of commerce and our own economic development group, I'm committed to making sure that we're out there with our 95% of our businesses, our small businesses, you've heard that number before, retain them, expand them, and recruit them. So our small business assistance program for the city has been absolutely wonderful. And once again, we received the award at the state level for all of the different things that we have been doing to help the small businesses, from that sewer lease to how do you get the small mobile food trucks out there, to that pre-lease opportunity where people can go in, have staff come and walk them through a building, check off all the things that they're going to need before they sign that lease. That is the advocacy that the city has been doing, and I absolutely love that piece.
So between the four of you, two issues were raised I'd like to go back on and have your comment, your position on. One is the oil terminal, yes or no, that's a short answer. And then the I-5 bridge replacement project, are you for or against that? You want to start, Ann?
Oil terminal, no. I-5 bridge replacement, yes. As you probably, I'm going to expand because Governor Locke appointed me on that second task force to identify the problem. And I worked 17 years on that bridge. I'd like to see it replaced.
Thank you.
No
Yeah,
oil.
I'm sorry, let me go back. So would you support the CRC as it was constructed with light rail included and?
The CRC is dead and gone
Right,
because
but
it tied
if-
into federal money.
Right,
And we
but
don't have
if
it.
a project like that, say
If the federal government
Would
was
you-
going to pitch in a third of that, absolutely.
okay, and including light rail now.
Light rail isn't even on the table now because we've lost that money. So we're going to have a mass transit piece.
Yeah, but you support light rail.
In this economy, I don't know that we're going to be able to even get it on the table.
What do you support?
Do I support mass transit? Yes.
Do you support light rail?
I'd love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen. I
Okay.
support bus rapid transit.
Okay.
I think it's more flexible when the earthquake comes.
Totally agree. Bus rapid transit would be a preferred option. Yes on the I-5 bridge, yes, no on oil terminals. But yeah, the bus rapid transit I think is a better option. One, because I don't think the voters in Clark County are they're not budging on this issue, and they've spoken, and I think it's an issue for the political establishment to listen to the will of the voters. There comes a time when you have to admit that we need to rethink it.
Oil terminal, absolutely. Light rail, no. I-5 bridge, a policy of seismic upgrade, third bridge, and then replace the I-5 bridge. It's called priority of effort. And they can all be done simultaneously.
Oil terminal, no, I think it's too risky with what we saw in Oregon. With what happened there, I don't think we can afford to take that risk. I-5 bridge, I agree with Stephen that I think that the current bridge should be upgraded and a third bridge should be added. I don't understand the concept of if it's feasible to put a third one in, why would you want to get rid of one altogether just to replace it with maybe one additional lane or two additional lanes in each direction? That doesn't make much sense to my brain. And then light rail, no. I would say no to the light rail. Historically in Oregon, the light rail has been heavily subsidized. It doesn't pay for itself. It just doesn't make fiscal sense. I agree with more buses rather than light rail.
I'm sorry, you said no on the oil terminal.
No on the oil terminal.
Okay,
With what
I
we
just
saw in
wanted to make
Oregon,
sure.
yeah, we can't take that risk.
Real quick, hopefully I can get an answer out of everybody. And I'm gonna start, you, Adam. If you weren't in the race, which one of the other two candidates would you vote for?
If I weren't in the race, I would probably write myself in.
No, you can't do that. I'm looking for an honest, a real answer, let's say.
Rephrase the question.
Wait, you need to answer the question.
I would vote for Greg. I think I like his demeanor. From what I know of Greg, I think he seems very level-headed, practical. I think he can put a fresh perspective on it. I want to see somebody come from the outside. So I would vote for Greg. I want to see somebody who hasn't been in government their whole life. I think that a fresh take on anything is always good. A new set of eyes can always help solve problems. So I would go with Greg.
Steve, Cicero is not a viable answer.
None of the above.
Well, no, but are you going to vote in this race?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you weren't in this race, would you still vote in the race?
I would vote for myself.
But that's not a viable answer.
I'd find a write-in.
Because none of these people are any good.
Not that they're not good people.
No,
I
they're
disagree.
not any good as an elected.
I disagree measurably on some of the issues. Some of the critical issues I disagree with.
But let's say there's no write-in, and you have to vote for one of these three. What would you do?
But there is a write-in.
No, but let's say there isn't.
Well, you're talking hypotheticals, and I
Yes.
won't discuss hypotheticals with you.
You won't discuss hypotheticals. Okay. So I'm not going to get an answer out of you.
Well, I told you, none of the above.
Okay, that's not an answer.
I came quickly off my.
Yes,
my writing
you,
for the
right.
record.
You know, sometimes you gotta make
Absolutely.
tough stands, tough decisions.
In quick time.
Well, this isn't rocket science.
All right.
None of
Thank
the
you.
above.
Thank you.
Well, I'll say I'm humbled by Adam's words. It's and I agree. An outside perspective is something that's why I'm running. And if I was not in it, I mean, I have to say I believe I would vote for Adam.
Okay, thank you. Ann?
I would probably vote for Greg. The reasoning is that he has been out in the community, and while I haven't seen my other opponents out in the community showing up at forums and working with neighborhood associations and attending meetings, I have seen Greg recently doing that, and that means that he's out listening to the individuals.
Can I split my vote between Adam?
Too late.
That's not fair.
That Bella thing.
Just one more thing, if you will,
Jody has.
indulge me.
Oh,
Did
go
you have a
ahead.
question?
I was just gonna say, we know that Ann's run for office real quick. Have you ever run for office?
I have not. No.
Stephen?
I ran to be a PCO and won.
Okay.
But for which party?
No,
Republican Party.
Okay.
I considered 7th grade student body president, but I didn't go through with it.
Okay,
And I'm
thank
gonna
you.
ask it quickly, and how many, and this is not a question for Anna, because I know the answer, but how many city council meetings have you been to in the last year?
3 or 4 probably.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Same here.
2.
We'll move on then. We'll go around and give us your final pitch, why voters should support you, and please mention any notable endorsements that you would like to mention, and we'll start down here with that.
So I think as a local business owner, I think I can put a fresh perspective on things. I know how I have to meet budgets with my business. I have to take care of 75 employees and make sure that their jobs are safe and stable. I've created a business in Vancouver. I came back to where I grew up. I could have started my business in Seattle or anywhere around the city. Or anywhere on the state, excuse me. I wanted to do it in the city that I love, the city that I grew up in, where I have ties, and I want to see the city move forward. I think it's going generally in a pretty good direction. I like the waterfront project. I really wish that the bridge could get done. I wish there wouldn't. I know there's some infighting between local politicians between Washington and Oregon. I'd like to see that stop. I think that just somebody coming from the outside. I know that I have the mental faculties to understand complex issues, and I think that by getting in there and talking with people, I think that I can come up with creative solutions that maybe other people haven't been able to, with their head down to the grindstone for years, and bogged down in local politics. I think that I can bring a fresh set of eyes, and I think that I can really solve some problems for the city of Vancouver.
Thank you. Steve?
Well, I bring something that is characteristically different, and that's the integrity, ethics, values that we don't see exhibit. I spent many years as an investigating officer on a lot of things. I know how to find problems, and I know how to interpret law, and I know how to fix problems. This isn't a popularity contest. This is serious business. And people say I don't smile enough. There's a smile for you. I'm not in this for the fun, certainly not in it for the money. I was happily retired. Not in it for the power, not in it for popularity. I'm in here to do the job of the taxpayers. Help business. I will not charge a B&O, a third tier B&O tax on business. Unlike Ann has said she will. I'm going to keep taxes down. I'm going to right size things. I'm going to make it work better. I'm going to make it efficient. That's why I'm running.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, any endorsements?
Let's see. Vicky Kraft, Liz Pike, Eileen Query, a whole host of people on Facebook.
Okay.
One particular small business owner, transmission store out on Fourth Plain, and small mom and pop shops, grassroots things.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, I meant to ask Adam, do you have any endorsements?
No official endorsements. No.
Okay. And Greg, final pitch?
First I'd like to thank you for having us down here to talk with you guys. It's been great to listen to each of you and share ideas. And I think I'd like to make an appeal to Vancouver that we need a fresh set of eyes, that we need a new approach, someone who hasn't been there, but who has lived life, who has been a member of the community, who has participated and run a business, who I joke about this, that part of my qualification is I coached Little League for 6 years. I dealt with parents, with kids who wanted to play shortstop, not center field. With the league, I had to deal with fundraising, and it sounds kind of trivial, but it's not. I took it seriously, just as I take anything I do seriously. I've got a strong work ethic. I care deeply about this community. I think we need an infrastructure program that rebuilds a lot of our working infrastructure to attract more business and get business more efficient. I think we need to have part of the problem with the homeless and the opioid epidemic right now is a lot of these people had no mentors, no guidance in how to dress for a job interview, how to talk to strangers, how to behave in the classroom, and they give up and they don't know how to behave, how to apply for an apartment. We need to address that issue. We could have a mentors program for youth that helps guide some of the wasted potential that we've been seeing, guide it into more productive avenues. And I think if we go forward with a climate action plan and we improve our infrastructure and address the homeless and the affordable housing problems in our city, I think we're in good stead for the next century.
Thank you. Ann?
Well, it is interesting to listen to the three of you talk about fresh eyes, fresh people and for the last 10, 15 years, I haven't seen a single one of you at any neighborhood meeting, at any community meeting. You haven't testified on some of the issues that we've been talking about today. You haven't given us your voice. You haven't talked to us when we've been out there for budget work. You haven't been out there when we were talking about the street funding organization and that piece. When we were talking about the police, when we were talking about funding for safety, when we were talking about the oil terminal, when we were talking about the I-5 bridge. I didn't see your faces, I didn't hear your voice, so I'm glad to hear it today. I'm thankful that you finally got involved in our community. But I've been out there and I have been listening and bringing those fresh ideas from the community, from Fruit Valley all the way out to Fisher's Landing. All of those 67 neighborhoods, I think I've missed 4 of them in the last 5 years. Out there in the neighborhoods, listening to the people and their concerns and having them help us solve the problems, bringing their issues forward and taking them to staff and solving those problems. Adam, when it comes to the potholes, we average 48 hours and we use My Vancouver app to get it and nail it. When we're talking about all of the different homeless piece, you're absolutely right, Greg. We have been working on that and we miss that particular piece going forward. But our budget is balanced. Our debt has been significantly reduced, nearly $1 million every year. Our credit rating is spectacular. And as we move forward, we're making changes at the waterfront, we're making changes at the barracks, we are talking about Town Plaza, we're talking everything from the east side to the west side. And we're down in the neighborhoods working on parks and repairing roads and streets and sidewalks and everything else. When I'm talking about endorsements, absolutely, Mayor Tim Levitt endorsed me. Mayor Rose Pollard endorsed me. Mayor Bruce Higginson endorsed me. Chair Mark Bolt endorsed me. As I go through, I have business owners, advocacy organizations, working families. I have city councilors, previous councilors, current councilors. These are people who have moved forward and have worked in this community, and they know how hard it is to sustain that effort, making progress. And I'm absolutely ecstatic about keeping our families and our businesses moving forward.
Right, thank you. Thanks to all.